Hey all, Board Game Rants here. We'll find everything solo, tabletop gaming, and more. Got the new expansion for Euphoria. Ignorance is Bliss. Gonna go over how you play it solo, coming right up. So there we have it all in its glory. Let's go over real quick just some of the differences here. Oh, and by the way, I'll be going over this how to play solo, but you can really do the same thing with 2 players and have a 4-player experience, because the solo offers a 3-player experience. I'll get to that in a bit here. But with the expansion, you've got yourself a bazaar. So you've got a board here that, with the artifacts that would normally just come out randomly, you just draw off the top. Now they're going to come out kind of in this chain format. And if you have an action that allows you to get an artifact card, you can just grab this for free, or you could take this for any one commodity type, this one for any one commodity type, and this one for any 2 commodity types. And then as you take one off, stuff slides over, and then you just draw the next card. And so in that way, things, you can see them coming down the line and have a little more control there. The expansion also comes with this handy dandy little board here. So you'll just keep track of your morale and your knowledge right here now, instead of having to do it up there. Everyone's got their own personal little boards now. And then out here, you'll notice on the tunnel tracks, there's some numbers, and that, according to the number of players you are playing with. And when you're playing solo, you're playing technically with 3, because the solo is basically running 2. Then your little minor guy starts closer to the end. So it just gives you a lot less travel time to actually activate the end of the tunnel there. So that's those stickers have been added to all the tunnels. It comes with this key, which essentially changes one of the rules. It was a very popular fan-made variant, which whenever you rolled doubles, or whenever you rolled 2, 3, or 4 of a kind, you could just use one after the other on your turn. And now you must pay a morale per worker when you place beyond the first. So this makes it a little, I don't know, people seem to like that more. I think I like it more too. Not that I had a tremendous amount of experience with the original game. Also, I do know that once these markets are built, and if you weren't one of them that built it, of course, then you'd have to deal with the penalty at the bottom. But now, instead of having to go to the artifact market to potentially put one of your authority tokens on that market you didn't build, you can just take the market action that's exposed and put, instead of putting authority token in the territory, you can put it on the market, so that you can stop getting penalized there. I know that that's just another little minor tweak there. The expansion comes with these very cool looking 5 count, 5, each one of those represents 5 of that particular commodity. They look awesome and gigantic compared to these cute little fellas. And so I just have them out on the board just for looks, I guess. And then, so the big thing that really came with the expansion are all the new recruits, a whole new stack of recruits. And there's a little, it's denoted right there. This is from the expansion. There's a whole stack that basically replaces the original Euphoria's recruits. And you play with either or. Same with these. There's a whole new stack of markets that come with the expansion. And you play with either or. And by that I mean you can either play with all of the markets and recruit cards from the expansion, or not. You don't mix them up. You don't mix them up with the originals at all. I guess it has to do with balancing the game or something. I'm not sure. But so I, of course, am playing with all materials from the expansion. That is these recruit cards, and these market cards are all from the expansion. So let's start digging into the real exciting part of the game, and that is the Automa feature. So for any of you that have played the Automa for Gaia Project, this is going to seem very familiar here, and I'll go over it in just a second. Essentially, the Automa opponents are designed in such a way that they're very streamlined, so there's not a lot of bookkeeping. And by that I mean they don't collect commodities, they don't collect resources, they don't pay for anything when they put their dice out on the board. They don't have knowledge checks. They don't have the dilemma cards. So they're just, all they're going to do essentially is put workers out on the board, and they're going to be moving up on the allegiance track, and they're going to be constructing markets and putting authority tokens everywhere. And so that is really all they're going to be doing. And in that way too, they're going to be blocking you from being able to move up on your allegiance, and some cool little features there too. They're going to be swiping cards off this market. How does all that happen? Well, it all starts with this little deck. So this little deck here is constructed. You make it, so to speak, out of the provided cards. And in that way, you can adjust your difficulty level, how hard the Automa opponents are. And in this case, they're set up, the black Automa with all of its authority tokens there is going to be playing as the Euphoria, and white Automa with all its authority tokens is going to be playing as Subterra. And that was actually picked because of what I chose when I drew my 4 recruit cards. I picked Wastelanders, and then underneath I've got Icarites. And so you, in the normal version of the solo game, you would pick randomly between the other 2 factions for black and white Automa. So that's been done. But this deck right here was built out of these guys. So there are a bunch of green cards, and there's a bunch of black cards. See the little earmarks up there, a bunch of white cards, and a bunch of purple cards. You wouldn't normally have these face up. I'm just showing you how the decks were built. Depending on what difficulty level you're playing on, you can see there kind of on the left side, intermediate, as described in setup. So the initial Automa deck is made up of 6 green cards. And so there was a whole stack of green cards, but 6 of them are right there. That's my first deck. And then you're going to build 2 more decks, add index. And those decks are going to be made of, if you're playing intermediate, 2 green, 1 black, 1 white, and 1 purple card in each. And so these stacks here are going to be added. After I run through this deck the first time, I'm going to add one of these, shuffle it in, and then go through that deck. And then once I've gone through those 2 combined, I'm going to shuffle this third one in and run through that over and over again until the game is over. So in that way, the game difficulty kind of ramps up, because these green cards, really, they just have the Automas taking fairly lenient actions, if you will, commodity actions that just help move it up on allegiance tracks. And then the black earmark one, so then this deck, when you first introduce the second deck, after you've gone through all 6 of the green cards, then now you're going to have a black and a white and a purple card in there. And those are more advanced actions. And the black earmarked ones, those have the black Automa taking a more advanced action. The white ones have the white Automa taking a more advanced action. And the purple one has them both taking an advanced action. And by advanced action, I mean not a commodity action or a tunnel action. They are going to be trying to construct markets, finish markets, lock you out of them so you're penalized, and then start slamming down those authority tokens. And so those are the more advanced actions that I'm talking about. And so so you can see in the difficulty levels here, like if you go over to I want to cry, the initial Automa deck, instead of 6 green cards, it starts with 4 green, 1 black, and 1 white card. And the add-in decks have no green cards in them. 1 black, 1 white, and 1 purple each. And there's a lot, and there's fewer cards. And so you're cycling through those decks faster. And so those Automas really ramp up the pace and apparently make you want to cry. So let's talk a little bit about what these actions specifically do. So when you start the game, you're actually going to have this first card of the Automas face up like that. And then I would take my turn over there. Okay, I took my turn. And then it's the Automa's turn. So you always go first, and then you're going to flip over this card, and you're going to set it next to the one that's already face up. Now, the trick is to get your eyeballs to work correctly, and that is to train them to not pay attention to the left side of the left card and not pay attention to the right side of the right card. So all you're going to be paying attention to is right there, these 2 columns, if you will. And you're going to work your way kind of down, starting with there. If there was a little, the only thing that's really going to be there is going to tell you to remove a card from the bazaar. And if there's nothing there, of course, we don't do that. But then you go to, again, ignoring the left, ignoring the right. Just this black bar here is going to tell you what the black Automa is going to do. And this white bar here is going to tell you what the white Automa is going to do. And in this case, these green actions, as I mentioned, you can see the little green ear marks there, very basic. This is telling me that the black Automa is going to take a commodity action. And then this little weird head symbol means in its faction. And in this case, the black Automa is Euphoria. So when it takes a commodity action in its home faction, it's going to take its lowest die. So I already rolled all these, and this is the only time it's ever going to use its lowest die, is if it's instructed to take a commodity action on its home faction. So I would take this die and I would go over to Euphoria. I'd plop it down there. And then, again, doesn't collect commodities, doesn't collect resources, doesn't collect anything. It's just going to move up on my wrecked track here. Let's get everything back in order. So there's Euphoria. It moves up once on the allegiance track. And that's the black Automa's turn. Now the white Automa goes. And you can see, so there's like this side is the action selection, and then this side tells you where the Automa is going to try and take that action. And so here you can see that the white Automa is going to do the same thing. It's going to take commodity action in Euphoria. Now, whenever the faction is taking a commodity action in not its home faction, in this case white is not Euphoria, it's Subterra, it's going to put its highest die. And in fact, it always puts its highest die out, except for this one exception I mentioned up there. So white is going to take its highest, which is 3. And I kind of usually, I like to put the dice in order so that I can grab the lowest and the highest pretty quickly. And white is going to go over here. And it's still going to total everything and do these actions, well, and either move up the allegiance track or not according to the total on the die. So in this case, Euphoria still goes up. So that goes there, and then just to keep with patterns, we'll set that over there. Not that it does us any good or that it does the Automas any good. So that is now those two actions. That's it. It's done. And then I would go. So I would be able to do my thing. And this gets slid off. So this is now technically discarded. And this now is going to become the support card. So again, we had these together. This side determined the actions they were going to take. This side determined where they were going to try to take the actions. The support card, the action card. Now this goes off. This is now going to become the support card. So we know that whatever actions are about to come up here, they're going to try to do them in their home factions, starting there. So let's see what happens. Let's flip this over. Okay, so there it is. As I was saying, this tells you is pretty clear. They're going to remove this card from the bazaar. So this gets set off to the side. These get scooched down. And so yeah, so you got to be watching that bazaar. If there's something out there you like, there's no guarantees it's still going to be there when you want it. So, and then here is, now we know what this action is going to do, but this one is a little different. This is saying it's going to take a tunnel action, or it's going to take the Sky Lounge action in the Icarite. If it's instructed to do something for the Icarites, because they don't have a tunnel, right? So in this case, black, and it's saying it wants to do this action either or in its home faction. Black is Euphoria, so there's a tunnel there. So it's going to take its highest die, and we're going to go over to Euphorian Tunnel. Put that there. Again, doesn't pay anything, doesn't get anything. All it's going to do is move up on that tunnel track. It's going to try to move here to expose hidden recruits. When it does that, when either it reaches, the miner reaches here, or it gets activated on here, this makes it all the way, the allegiance track makes it all the way over there, then the kind of one of the rules of the Automa is it gets a star for that. The Automa, once their faction is exposed, so to speak, they get to put an authority token out. So tunnel action, that's all there was to it. Then the white Automa gets to go, and it's going to take now, because it's going to be doing a commodity action in its home faction of Subterra, it's going to take its lowest die. Plop it right there, and it's going to move up on that track. Because again, they're trying to get these up so they can, once they hit there, they get a star, and once they reach the end, they get a star just like normal. I do my turn, and then they would go. So now here is where things are a little different. So they still got, but they both still have die, right? Yes, they both still have some dice to work with, but that is where this little card is going to come in handy. So whenever they get to, and let's see if I can focus in on there. It says here, retrieve. So yeah, eventually they're going to have to retrieve workers, right? Well, they were going to retrieve workers when they're down to 1. It says retrieve workers when 0 left or 1 left, and either of the above actions are selected. That is the commodity action or this tunnel breeze bar sky lounge action. So that is exactly the case right now. Both the black Automa and the white Automa want to take a commodity action, and each of them have only 1 die. So they are going to get their workers back. They're going to retrieve workers. Now that is where, so here is where that bizarre action would take place, and they take one of the artifact cards. But now this little camping symbol, it means exactly what it looks like. It means they may camp. And that is, they may leave, while they're retrieving workers, they may leave some of their workers out on the board. And so they may leave if that symbol's there. Now, if that was just a white symbol and like that, they'd just retrieve all their workers. But when that camping symbol's there, you got to put a little more thought into it, because they're going to leave either their highest die on a non-Automa commodity to try and block you from moving up your allegiance track. Or, and they will always do this, if they start constructing a market, they're going to leave a die there. They won't retrieve that worker either. So, what does that mean? Looking at black here, they are going to camp if they're on a commodity space that is not their faction and not the other Automa's faction, but black does not. Black is on its own, so it's going to retrieve that. Black is on a tunnel, so it's going to retrieve that. But up here, that die is going to stay there because no Automa is playing the Icarites. And in fact, it's my hidden recruit. I would like to see that go up, but they are going to camp there and keep that from moving up on the allegiance track. They would retrieve that if that camp symbol wasn't there, but that camping means they're going to camp, so they just roll these. You don't have to do any knowledge checks. That 6 goes there, this 3 goes there. White is going to do the same thing now. They're going to retrieve their workers. Let's see here. So white this isn't White's faction. White is Subterra, but that's an Automa faction. So White is going to retrieve that. It's not going to try to block his partner. And it's going to retrieve, of course, from its own and from this tunnel. Roll the dice. 3, oops, 2, and 2. There we go. So that was their action. They just did a retrieve worker action. That's it. They're done. And now I would take my action, and then it would be back to the Automas, but we're out. So you know what's going to happen. We get to take one of those decks. Either one, doesn't matter. They're both made of the same constructed cards there. And we're going to shuffle all these up and keep at it. And now we're going to have some new actions to deal with, though. Got it all shuffled together there. You'll notice the deck is missing there because that's got all mixed in. And let's see what the Automa is going to do. So it flips over a card. That's going to be its support card here. I'm going to join that with one of the white cards. So that means the white Automa, as I mentioned, is going to do a little stronger action. The black Automa is just going to do a basic tunnel action, it looks like. So it's going to take its highest die, and it's going to go over here, and it's going to move up 1 on the tunnel track. Now the white die. So this is a construct market action. So that is where this is going to come in handy for you, because you're just going to go down this priority list. So the action that the white Automa wants to take is a construct market action. So we start from top, work our way down. And it says action, well, artifact, which we haven't even seen yet, and construct market. So it's a construct market action, valid spaces. Are there any markets under construction? So first it would check out here. If there's any markets that are under construction, it's going to add to that. There are not. So it is going to go to the next line, construct market. For construct market action, it's looking for an unconstructed market. So there's plenty of them. So what is it going to do? It's going to place a worker in the bottommost construction space. So that's where you're going to look at the faction. This is going to tell you where it's going to start. So it's going to start in Euphoria. That is white. It's going to use its highest die. And in Euphoria, it's going to go to the bottommost space. So it's going to work its way all the way down here, and it's going to plop its worker right there. That market is now under construction. That is the Automa's turn. Then I would get to go. This gets discarded. Now we know that Black Automa is going to do something starting in its faction. White's going to do something starting in Euphoria. Flip this over. We've got, so first let's take care of that. Okay, so now here's artifact market. So this is the purple. This is the strongest cards of the Automa. So it is going to, this is an artifact action. So we're going to look here again. You start on the top. It says artifact, end constructed market. So either one of those actions is going to look. Market's under construction. There sure is, unfortunately. And so it's going to, what's it going to do? It's going to place a worker and a star. Well, so first it's going to place a worker, and then we'll see what happens. So it's going to place a worker on the bottommost space. That is black. It's going to use its highest die. It's going to go up here. And again, it would technically, if there were more than one unconstructed market, it'd start with its faction, which happens to be Euphoria. But this can help you break tiebreakers if you need to. In this case, there's no need. Black's just going to go here, and the two of them are going to complete that construction. So this is going to get flipped over. That goes there. They would roll these dice, add them back to their respective available workers, and then they each get to put a star on there just like normal. There's their authority tokens, and I am now penalized. So I have to suffer that penalty until I can get an authority token on there, just like normal. The Automas blocked me out and constructed a market before I could do anything about it. But that's just the beginning. So now white gets to go, and white is going to take the construct market action. And now, again, it's going to look from top to bottom. Well, there was a market under construction. Not anymore. It's finished. So it's going to go to the next thing, unconstructed markets. And so it's going to look, starting in Euphoria, again, it's going to take its highest die, and it's going to go up, and it's going to take the bottommost space. So it's going to go here now, because the market underneath it is built. So this market, Euphoria, is getting built quick. And that is when, of course, I, as a player, I want to start getting resources and getting out there and building those markets, because they're going to be penalizing the heck out of me if I don't. But this gets discarded. This would go over. I'd take my turn. Back to the Automas. Flipping that up. Oh, and it's a black one. So first of all, we're going to look up top. We need to get rid of this. We slide these over. You can see that the pace of the Automa, once you get it down, it just really gets ripping. So now we know that the black Automa is going to take construct action starting in Euphoria. And you'll notice it has one die, but this isn't a commodity action. It would normally take and retrieve workers if it was down to one die and it took a commodity action, but it doesn't, because it's taking a construct market action. So knowing that there's already an unconstructed market out there, we know what it's going to do. It's going to take its one last die. It's going to finish that market. So now that's a bummer, not only for me, but also for white, because this gets constructed. That goes there. These get rolled. Whoa, a couple sixes there. And gets to put an authority token out there. I'm going to suffer that penalty, but now to represent white suffering a penalty for not having an authority token on there, this gets flipped over. And now, anytime white retrieves workers and 6 is rolled, those 6s get put on this card, and they are not available to the white faction. That's how they suffer penalties in a generic fashion. They don't have to, you don't have to figure out what these penalties might mean for them. That is how the factions, the Automa, get penalized when they don't have authority tokens on the markets. And so once, so let's just keep going, because right now, right, black's just gone. So now white, commodity action. It's only got 1 die. It's going to retrieve them. It's going to camp if it can, or if it's appropriate, but it's not going to camp in its own space. And this is the other Automa's faction, so it's not going to camp here either. If this was me, it would stay there, but it's not, so it's going to grab that. Now it's going to roll these, and let's see if it gets any 6s, and it didn't. That's a bummer. We were hoping it'd get penalized. If it had rolled the 6s, the 6s would have gone over there. But, oops, what was that? Doesn't really matter. Anyway, didn't roll any 6s, and so no penalty for white. That's unfortunate. I was hoping that that would quickly pay off, but it didn't. You know what? And it's also worth noting, here's part of the strategy of the game. You know, this is the black. The black earmark now is out, the white earmark's out, and so is the purple. So we know the rest of these are green, so we can breathe a little easier knowing they're not going to be constructing markets. That can affect how I play my game. I just wanted to throw that out there because that's a very cool feature of some of these, I don't know, better Automa designs, is that allows you some degree of predictability, so you can fashion your game around not so much randomness, but some general plans can be developed, knowing how these cards may or may not come out. But the rest of these are going to be greens, so I'm just going to say, you know, it took all its actions. I'm going to take that and I'm going to shuffle it in, and we're going to get rolling and see if I can show you a couple more examples here. Okay. They're all in there. Everything's all shuffled up in here. And let's see what they would do. There's the support card. It's a black. So we already got one of the black, stronger black Automa actions gone, because we don't have to do the action part. We just got to do the support part. Black is going to do a tunnel action using its highest die and in its faction of Euphoria. So it's going to bump itself. Gets this back. I'm going to shatter the authority tokens. It's going to scooch up. So now once it scooches up there, once this miner gets there, the black Automa gets to put a star, one of 2. Now when it reaches the end of its allegiance track, it's going to get another star. So that was a good move for black Automa. Now it's white. Commodity action in the Icarite faction. So it's going to take its highest die. It's going to go up here and move up on the Icarite Allegiance, which helps us out a little bit. That's one of our hidden recruits. And then, ta-da, I took my turn. We go back. This scooches over. We know black's going to do something in Wastelander, or starting there. And then the white starting in their faction. However, first, let's pay attention to this. Got to remove. So it's saying this card right here. That gets discarded. This slides over. This goes like this. And now, oh, and this is a white card. So, first of all, black's going to take its commodity action in the Wastelander section. So it's going to take its highest die. Going to go over the Wasteland, and 6 + 1 is 7. That's not going to move that up on the allegiance track. Now the white. So here we go. Here's where white is penalized right now. So we look here, we go down this list, and again, so artifact construct markets. Is there a market under construction? No. Down here, construct market. This isn't a construct market action. This is an artifact market. So we skip that. We go down here, artifact construct. So that's here. Now, valid spaces, artifact markets for penalizing markets. Artifact markets for penalizing markets. Anyway, what that means says it's going to place a worker and an authority token to keep itself from being penalized. So white is going to take its highest die, and it's going to put it on the artifact market. If there was ties to be broken, it would start with its faction of Subterra, but none of the markets not getting penalized in Subterra. So that's what this means up here. This tells you you basically move clockwise around to break ties once, or to get to a valid action. So you just start in Subterra, we'd move over to Euphoria. So we come up here. Where is it getting penalized? It's getting penalized right there. It takes the artifact action. It's going to move up. So don't forget that. I've done that before. It's going to move up on that track, but ultimately what it's doing here is putting a white authority token on that market. It is no longer penalized. This gets flipped back over. If it had rolled a 6 and was on this card when I'm doing what I'm doing right now and flipping this over, that 6 would still be unavailable and just sit on that card until it officially retrieved all its workers back. But in this case, White was not penalized long enough to feel the effects, and it is back to not being penalized at all, but I'm being penalized heavily because I'm not even playing. You know, to sum it all up, let's just scooch ahead in time. Let's say all of the markets have been built and they've all got their respective authority tokens on them. The way this is shown right now, you've got a market that white's being penalized for. You've got a market that black's being penalized for. So on their turn, now when everything's constructed, now they're just going to focus first on more or less unpenalizing themselves so they can not get penalized for rolling sixes. And then they just put authority tokens out like gangbusters. So first of all, they're both being penalized right now. You'd go through this list. Well, now there are no more markets under construction, and there's no more unconstructed markets. So now these actions are basically going to have them work on their penalizing markets. So black would look here. It wants to put a worker starting with its faction, if it had to do some tie breaking, starting with Euphoria, but it doesn't have any penalizing markets there. Now it works its way clockwise around to here. It's going to try to not penalize. So it does have a choice. It could go here or here, but because this said to start with its home faction and then you work your way clockwise around the table, that's why it's going to officially pick this one first, puts that there. Don't forget to work up on the allegiance track there. And then it places a star authority token there, but it still is being penalized there. So it does not get to flip its card back over. However, white gets to go. Again, everything's built. And so it's going to go here. It's going to look at where it's being penalized, starting with Euphoria. It's going to take its highest die. In Euphoria, it's not being penalized, so it works its way up and around. There's its first one where it is not, where it is being penalized, puts its thing there, puts an authority token on there, and it's going to move up on the wasteland track. And eventually, these actions are going to have them getting all their authority tokens out on all of the markets, and then these cards are going to get flipped back over, and then by default all of these artifact and construct market actions that it might take are going to go to this bottom line here, where they're just going to be putting out authority tokens on territories. And the game ends just the way it always ends. Whoever puts out their last authority token first wins. And that's it. And hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of how this plays with the Automas. Playing solo, again, you can play it with 2 players using the Automas to have a 4-player experience. So that's cool. It's not just for solo players. If you're mainly a 2-player type of gamer, then this has got something for you as well. The Automa actions, while in the beginning can seem a little much, once you've played through just a couple games, I would say, it really starts to click, and you have to hardly spend any time at all with this, and you can just settle into an awesome multiplayer game experience, whether you're playing by yourself or there's 2 of you. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions or if I can help in any way. You can leave some comments down below. But until next time, I am Board Game Rants, and I'm out.